At exactly midnight, that young man walked steadily and with an eerie calm along the wooden boardwalk, the one that stretches far into the sea's waters, with the full moon looming silently over the scene. But the seagulls were not silent, for they attacked him with fierce clamor, circling around him and shrieking as if trying to stop him from reaching the end of the boardwalk. With every step he whispered in a broken voice, "It's all over. It's all over." He stood at the end of the boardwalk with resolve, as if all the trees within him had burned and turned to ash, yet he remained steadfast. Then he spoke with profound calm. "O Lord, I know you are here. I know you are watching me and hearing me." He took out a picture of his mother and said in a quiet voice laden with sorrow, "This is my mother's picture. Surely you know her. She was the one who planted faith and love for you in my heart. But that cursed disease struck her. It shouldn't have struck her. She suffered so much. As a child, I prayed to you countless times to keep her with me, but you took her." He threw the picture into the sea, then took out another picture and said, "And this is my father's picture. You must remember him. He was the one who taught me to rely on you in all matters and to trust you in the darkest times. I depended on him so much, and you know how much I relied on him. I prayed to you so many times to protect him for us, but you took him." Once again he threw that picture too, then calmly took out a third picture and said, "And this is my little sister Sarah's picture. She barely remembered her mother and was always asking me, 'Where did Daddy go?' How painful it was to find an excuse to make her forget the bitterness of that question before you took her from me too. Why do these harsh events keep piling upon us? No, there is no justice in this. I never aspired to see you as the prophet Moses requested. I know you would answer me the same. You cannot see me. All I ever asked for throughout my life was for you to lend a helping hand to me and my family, even just once, but you didn't. I won't ask you now why you didn't, for it's far too late. I'm coming to you now, and I beg you not to be angry with me. Know that I'm leaving this life without being angry with you." Then, without hesitation, he threw himself off the boardwalk into the diving area. He didn't try to hold his breath. He didn't resist. He had completely surrendered to his fate. And finally, he opened his eyes to find his soul hovering above the island of Judgment Day, right above the 7 Ahua Kivi statues. He gazed at them in awe as they stood facing the Pacific Ocean, cloaked in the humility of ancient times. They stared westward toward some unknown place with their pale, submissive features. They had declared their eternal surrender and timeless despair by relinquishing everything, even their arms. He no longer cared about who he was, why he was here, or why he couldn't see his hands or body. All that mattered was not closing his eyes again so as not to lose this lightness and freedom, but he knew he was still himself, and he was here, and that was enough. Then he approached quickly and lightly with great curiosity, circling the 7 statues, listening reverently to the sound of hymns from those who made and carved them, mingled with the strikes of their chisels centuries ago. Tell them. They are asleep while the sun above them counts the remaining time. Tell them. You are the messengers of annihilation, and your sign is the great silence. Tell them. The whisper of the rock in the sea is melodious. Suddenly the light began to fade from the faces of the 7 statues and the brightness dimmed. Then a shocking question struck him. How does night fall when the sun is at its zenith? He turned his face in panic toward the sky, crying out with a voiceless prayer in the form of weeping, "My Lord, I swear by your love that has enveloped me and by your mercy that has embraced me, do not send me back, for my heart has not yet healed. It wasn't fear that gripped him, but something that shook every particle of his being, extending the black veil of despair he still remembered over his sight. And calmly a voice from the melody of eternity echoed in his mind, saying, "And man is ever hasty." Then he stopped screaming and his sight returned. He saw a surreal scene illuminating the horizon, a crown of light, and it was cast into his mind from a source unknown. That this was the annular solar eclipse that occurred on Tuesday, September 12th, 2034. Then he extended his hand straight toward the eclipse, hearing murmurs and whispers in the thousands, perhaps billions, yet he could distinguish between them. But he paid them no heed. He was captivated by contemplating the eclipse. Moments later, the murmurs and whispers grew louder, and he looked around to find every grain of sand on the island, and every particle in the ocean's waters glorifying God. Then a bolt of shame struck him, reproaching every particle of his being, making him feel within himself like 1,000,000 guilty children. How he wished he could flee and hide or shrink until he vanished and disappeared. How he sincerely wished God would take him back, so he wouldn't stand in this position before him. So he decided at once to prostrate to the ground, repeating, "Glory be to you who rolled the sun upon the moon. Glory be to you who stretched the shadow and folded the twilight. Glory be to you, my Lord, how great you are." The more he prostrated, the more he found his soul ascending. He found his soul rising gently, moving away from the island. There was an invisible hand guiding him calmly. He paused for moments to gaze at the island as it faded behind the horizon, everything in it glowing with light, its trees, flowers, stones, water, and sand pulsing with life. When he looked closely at what he thought were silent stones, he found them to be people following and photographing the eclipse, their souls barely shining with light. He turned his face away from them toward the east, no longer caring about anything, enjoying a freedom he had never dreamed of before. He continued soaring among and above the clouds, feeling neither air, nor humidity, nor cold, nor heat, but a force of love permeating his unseen body, yet he felt it. By God, how his soul returned to him. By God, how his wounds healed. He kept soaring, surrendered to his fate, knowing that only the Lord could do this. He looked down and found himself soaring on the other side of the world. There was the Sphinx, crouching with its arms outstretched for thousands of years, staring eastward toward that same unknown place, waiting in painful silence for what would soon happen. He knew that in this posture it was undoubtedly closer to fleeing than to valiantly defending the kingdom of King Khafra. He heard its fearful grumbling murmurs. "Curse you, O Ra! You have led astray the time of the one called Kada. Where is the light? Where is the radiance? Where is the beam? Ta has betrayed us, and the fortresses have crumbled. Iteru has abandoned us to thirst, shifted 10,000 cubits. Curse you, O Ra!" Meanwhile, those statues with blue eyes scattered across many civilizations followed with gazes filled with anticipation and anxiety. And who knows? Perhaps their motive was cunning and profound intelligence for what will inevitably happen in the future.